emails tonight suggesting some folks were a little perplexed about how to use the quadratic formula. So I'm going to do a couple of videos on the check understandings from chapter 10-7. So let's go and take a look at the quadratic. This is the quadratic formula. It says, so this is a generalized version of the quadratic equation where everything is equal to 0. Y, but instead equal to 0, which means that any x values that are here are the x values of the function equals 0. So this works out really well for giving us the x-intercepts for a quadratic parabola. So we say some number we're going to call a times x squared plus some number we're going to call b times x plus some number we're going to call c equals 0. So this is a coefficient a, this is a coefficient b, and this is a coefficient c. And we put it all together into this handy little formula. We put the negative of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. And each one of these letters comes from the quadratic being organized in this standard form. When I talk about standard form, this is what I mean. It's in descending degree, or so second degree. This actually is first degree, so this term is kind of a linear term. And this is just a number. There's no x at all, so this is the 0 degree, or constant term. So what you want to do with these is look at your equation, make sure it's in standard, and then figure out what your coefficients are. So in this equation, I've got a coefficient of 1, then the linear term has a coefficient of negative 2. That's not 2, that's negative 2. And then the constant is negative 8. So this means A is 1, B is negative 2, and C is negative 8. So let's go ahead and plug that in here. So I'm going to say A equals 1, B equals negative 2, and C equals negative 8. So we've identified all of those things. Now, now that I have information, I want to know what x is. So I want to know what the x, what x is in this case if this equation equals 0. So I use the quadratic formula. So I'm going to go back here. The quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus b squared over 4ac. So I'll go ahead and set it up. Negative b plus, and I'm going to do a plus version and a minus version, root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Okay, and there's the negative version of this, the minus version of this, because it's a plus or minus. And then I have that. So this actually is using all of the numbers up here. I identified A as 1, B as negative 2, and C as negative 8. And so these two are actually using each of those values, which is a handy dandy thing with the graphing calculator. So it gives us answers of 4 and negative 2. That means if x is 4 or x is negative 2, the whole thing equals 0. However, you might be wondering, how do I do this? And I just messed that one up. So that would be negative 8. How do I do this without the handy thing there? So here's what I got. I got an email saying, well, what do I do with B if this is a negative here? And B is negative 2. So with B, I'm actually going to do it this. I'm going to say, just set this all up. Square root. Okay, so I'm just going to do this over 2a. Say b squared minus 4ac So one way to think of b, the negative b in the beginning, is to remind yourself that I'm getting the negative of whatever my b coefficient is. So let's do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to replace b with what I've got here. So that becomes negative of negative 2. Then here, put a negative 2 inside there. That's negative 2 squared. I'm going to replace the a and the c with the coefficients I've got for the c. Replace a with 1. I'm going to replace c with negative 8. And then down here, I've got replacing a with 1 because that's what my coefficient is. So I've got all that, and that equals 4, which is back to what we got with the generalized version. So I'm going to copy that, paste that. And since it's a plus or minus version, I need a minus version. And there it is, negative 2. Now, I could go ahead and simplify everything. I could take this. So this becomes, instead of negative 2, it becomes, so negative 2 is positive 2. This part here becomes 4. 4 times 1 is just 4. Interesting. Go back here. Okay, so 4 times 1 is just 4. And 4 times negative 8 is negative 32. So now I've got 4 minus negative 32, which is going to be the same as 4 plus 32. 4 plus 32 is 36. We just steadily simplify this. 2 times 1 is just 2. So now I've got a much simpler expression. I've got 2 plus the square root of 36 over 2. And I can get, and I'm going to do copy, paste, and I'm going to replace this plus with minus. So I've now got a simplified version of it. And frankly, you can simplify one of them down to this point, and then you got to deal with the fact that it's a plus or minus. So we're going to simplify it further. The square root of 36 is 6. So there's that. The square root of 36 is also negative 6. That's why we got a plus or minus. And now this becomes 6 plus 2 is 8, of course. And 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Okay, and now we're having the same answers here. And 8 over 2 is 4. Negative 4 over 2 is negative 2. And those are my answers for that. Okay, let's try the next one. The next one says minus 4x equals 17. It's a little trickier because it's not in standard form. We get in standard form. Standard form equal to 0 here. So it's going to be x squared minus 4x. And then you got to subtract 117 from both sides. So it's going to be x squared minus 4x minus 117 equals 0. So my a is going to be 1. My b is negative 4. My c is going to be negative 117. So I can go and plug this in. 1, negative 4, and negative 17. Okay. And I can go down here and see what that did for me. So now I've got 13 and negative 9 as my solutions. Now, that's just using the cheaters. Now, go ahead and copy this. We're going to replace all those pieces with actual coefficients. So let's get this is the plus version of the quadratic formula. Replace b with negative 4. B squared is negative 4 squared. And then I've got 4 times, the a is 1, and the c is negative 117. And down here, that is replaced with 1. And all that does is calculates it for you. It gives you 13. I'll just take Desmos's word for it. Let's prove it all. So this, I plugged in my negative b, and negative of negative 4 is positive 4. So let's simplify that. Negative 4 squared is 16. Then I've got 4 times 1 times negative 117. So the 1 can go away. Since this is negative, I'm going to be doing a negative minus. I'm going to do minus a negative. So this is going to end up being plus a positive. Well, let's deal with that in a second. So 4 times negative 117 is going to end up being, well, that's 4 times 7 is going to be, replace that with an 8. And then 4 times, that was 28. So 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 1 is 4, but we carried the 2, so that's 6. And then 4 times 1 is 4. So we've got 468. And now I need to get rid of this. Okay, so that is 4 times negative 117. Now it's 16 minus negative 468, which is the same as 16 plus that. Now down here, 2 times 1 is 2, so I'm just going to clean that up. 16 plus 468. That's going to be 484. Okay, and the square root of 484 is a neat and tidy number. 484 happens to be 4 times 121. Okay, so I rewrote that as 4 times 121. You might notice now we have 2 perfect squares. Okay, so the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 121 is 11. So I have this boils down to 2. Okay, now I need a plus version of that. And it's also, the square root of 484 is also negative 22. So plus or minus 22. So I have these 2 versions here. I'm going to further simplify it. 4 plus 22 is going to end up being 26. 26 over 2 is 13, which is our answer. And then 4 minus 22 is going to be negative 18. And negative 18 over 2 is negative 9. And those are our answers for that one. So the key on that last one was that you need this into standard form. You need this in x plus b x plus c equals 0, in which case, in this case, it becomes x squared minus 4x minus 117 equals 0. And a is 1, b is negative 4, and c is negative 117. Let's go take a look at check understanding 2 in the next video.